Hi, welcome to today's video. My name is Paul. So this week you're going to watch me doing a little bit of charcoal landscape drawing. On screen you can see the materials I'm using. So it's Willow charcoal, a kneadable eraser, tissue paper or Kleenex if you like, and the drawing paper that I'm using is by Rowney. It's sort of a heavyweight paper and it's A4 size. A4 is approximately 8 by 12 inches, something like that. Normally I wouldn't usually use such a heavy paper for working with charcoal. The heavier paper of course is more expensive, and I don't personally see much advantage in using the heavier paper. The only reason I'm using it for this one is because it's what I had available. I think with charcoal, maybe two things that are worth considering are the surface texture of the paper. Is it a smooth paper? Does it have a bit of a tooth? Is it quite a rough paper, or so on? And also whether or not it's a bright white paper, a slightly off-white paper. Is it a toned paper? So the color of the paper. Those two things, surface texture and color, they make the biggest difference to the final drawing, I think. The weight of the paper, it is important with some things like watercolor painting, but charcoal, dry media, not so much, I think. My approach to using charcoal, so I've said this many times, but some people, are new and maybe don't realize this, but whereas most people use reference photographs, I don't. These landscapes that I'm doing are not real. They don't exist. But at the same time, they're not entirely fictional. What I mean is they're a mixture of imagination and memory. So they are kind of based on vague memories of real places, but they're not, realistic, accurate depictions of an actual place. It's just, that's the way I like to do art with landscapes. Obviously, if you're doing a portrait of someone, it's going to be different because it has to kind of look like the person. That's the point of a portrait. Or if you're trying to do a landscape of a specific place, a well-known land spot sort of thing, then of course you need some sort of references or to go out to that place and draw from life. But I'm not trying to do that, so using imagination is fine for me. It also, I like the way it frees me. I'm not sort of tied down to reproducing what I can see in a photograph. The other thing I would say is I'm not trying to do any sort of naturalistic or realistic style of drawing. So for example, in the sky, I put down some charcoal, I smudged it with the Kleenex, the tissue paper, and then used a kneadable eraser to lift off little bits of the charcoal, just exposing the white paper underneath. And all of that just sort of suggests a sky, suggests clouds in the sky. But I don't actually draw clouds. And the same with the landscape, it's creating these shapes using values, which, you could read as a landscape, but it is quite abstract. Again, it's just the approach that I use. If anybody was thinking of getting started with drawing, maybe a charcoal, what could I say to convince people that it's a good medium to work with? It is one of the cheaper mediums. You don't need special papers. It's pretty easy to get charcoal. Most art stores and other places will have a range of charcoal available. And it does come in a range of different styles and things. So you have some choice. Like I say, I'm using Willow charcoal. There's also vine charcoal. Those are the two sort of natural forms, if you like. There's also compressed charcoal, powdered charcoal, liquid charcoal, charcoal pencils. There's a lot of choice out there. So it is, in that sense, it's a good medium to work with. You have lots of choice. It's easily available. It's not the most expensive. And you don't really need special papers, unlike, say, watercolor or some of the other media that do require special surfaces to paint and draw on. Those would be the main advantages. The other things is, if you want to learn about values, what values are, how to use them, how to create different shapes using only values, well, charcoal is a good way of doing that. And you can, with a little bit of charcoal, turn it on its side, you can create all these sort of organic shapes, and you don't have to do line drawings. I think, when we're getting started drawing, we often think of line drawings only, and we tend to focus on that. But drawing in this style, there are very few lines. It's all just these organic shapes. The tissue paper, the Kleenex, was for smudging. And the smudging does a couple of things. It sort of softens the edges. It also lifts off some of the charcoal, so you get a kind of a mid-tone, a mid-value. And then the kneadable eraser was for lifting off the charcoal, sort of exposing the white paper underneath. And you can see it in the sky and in the foreground. It allows you to create a sort of different shapes, different values, and to create this sort of feeling of details, maybe clouds in the sky or grass and things in the foreground. The best way to learn with charcoal, in my opinion, is just to get yourself some paper, some charcoal, and just start messing around. And not think, am I doing this right? Is this the right way to do it? Just get stuck in and start drawing and see what happens. Approach it the way a child sort of approaches making art. To me, that's the best way, as in the most enjoyable way of doing it. I know some people prefer rules and strict guidelines and things, but for me, just having fun, just making a mess, see what happens. Anyway, if you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching and listening, and hopefully see you again in next week's video.